السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا يوم ينفخ في الصور فتأتون أفواجا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا إن جهنم كانت مرصادا للطاغين مآبا لابثين فيها أحقابا لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا إلا حميما وغساقا جزاء وفاقا إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا. صدق الله العظيم. إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا, the 17th ayah of Surah Naba, عما يتساءلون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, surely يوم الفصل, the day of decision, كان ميقاتا, is a fixed time. Yawm means day, and al-fasl, fasl means judgment, decision, to make the distinction. Yawm al-fasl, the day of decision or the day of judgment, kana miqata. Miqat means any place or any time that is fixed, boundaries that are fixed for anything. For example, when we go for Hajj and Umrah, and before we enter Mecca, we pass the miqat. Miqat means, in that sense, the limits after which a person cannot walk without ihram. Every person has to have ihram, and we cannot cross those boundaries without having the ihram. Those boundaries are called miqat, which means a fixed place before which every person has to have his ihram and cannot cross those boundaries without having the ihram. Same thing here, miqat means is a fixed time. The day of judgment is already fixed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have already decided a day for it. It's only we, the human beings, don't know what day and when that day will be taking place, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have already decided, and He knows when that day will be taking place. يَوْمَ يُنْفَخُ فِي الصُّورِ فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا, the day when the trumpet is blown. فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا, you will come in multitudes, in large groups. يُنْفَخُ فِي الصُّورِ, نَفَخَ يَنْفَخُ means to blow. Sur is the trumpet, the horn. فَتَأْتُونَ, you will come. Ata means to come. فَتَأْتُونَ, you will come. أَفْوَاجًا, Fawj means large group of people. So the day when the horn will be blown or the trumpet will be blown, فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا, you will come in multitudes, you will come in large groups. وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا. Here remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is picturing the scene of the day of judgment, that how it will take place and what will happen to people. So as the angel will blow the trumpet, now all the people will start running, and فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا, they will be running, and all of them are getting into groups and rushing to a place where they don't even know themselves where they are going. وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ, the heaven will be open. Fataha yaftahu means to open. As-sama is the heaven. The heaven will be open. Fakanat abwaba, it will become as gates, which means no more boundaries between the earth and the heaven. This earth and heaven will become just one. All the doors to the heaven will be open, and there will be no one limited from going to the heaven, which means now everything, there are no more boundaries between the heaven and earth. Now the judgment is ready to start, and people are all set to go towards their destinations, wherever that might be. وَسُيِّرَتِ الْجِبَالِ فَكَانَتْ سَرَابًا, and the mountains will travel along as if they were a mirage. Mountains, suyyira, sara yasiru sayyara. Sayyara means a car. Sara yasiru, to move. Suyyiratil jibal, the mountains will be traveling. Fakanat saraba, and they will become like a mirage, which means when a person is traveling and sees something like a water in front of him, it seems to him that he is catching it and is running, but that water is running away from him. There is really no water. That person, the water is running away. Same thing, the mountains will be flying away in front of the human beings on that day. The mountains will not be stable anymore. They will not be attached to the earth anymore. They will be flying like cottons. Inna jahannama kanat mirsada. Indeed, Jahannam, the hellfire, is a place of ambush, or is in ambush, which means the hellfire is always looking forward, is watching for people to come. Really, in this ayah, as the Mufassirin have explained, that hellfire is not in ambush, is the bridge of Sirat, where the angels who are supposed to lead the sinners towards hellfire will be waiting over there, sitting over there and waiting. As people will be crossing the bridge of Sirat, as they are walking on it, there will be a lot of angels standing over there checking our passes. We need a pass over there. There has to be an ID card. Each person will have his ID card before crossing the bridge. That ID will tell us and will tell the angels, where does this person belong to? Can he cross or he cannot? Is he allowed over that direction or is not allowed to go towards the other side? Under the bridge of Sirat is the hellfire. As they will check our IDs, you are not supposed to go to the other side. And they will push the person down into the hellfire. So, Jahannam is in ambush, which means the angels that will be leading people toward Jahannam, they are waiting over there. And they are waiting for all the people who are supposed to go to the hellfire so they can take them over there. لِلطَّاغِينَ مَآبًا, it's a home or final destination for transgressors. Ma'ab really means a place where a person finally stays at. A traveler, when he ends his journey and he goes and stays somewhere and he feels that now I got to my destination, that is ma'ab for that traveler. And taga yatghu means to transgress the limits. لِلطَّاغِينَ مَآبًا, that hellfire is the final destination for the transgressors. Taga yatghu means to cross the boundaries, to pass every boundary. And in this sense here, in this ayah, means to pass the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not to stop at where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, now after this thing is haram, but the person does not stop over there and he transgresses the boundaries and goes beyond the limits of Sharia of Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says hellfire is the destination, final destination for transgressors. لَابِثِينَ فِيهَا أَحْقَابًا, wherein they will stay for ages. Labatha yalbathu means to stay somewhere. And haqab means a long period of time. According to some mufassirin, haqab means more than 80 years. According to some of them, it means 100 years. irrespective of this time, it simply means a long period of time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, لَابِثِينَ فِيهَا أَحْقَابًا. Those people will be staying in hellfire for ages, which means time will never be ending for them. They will be just staying over there and getting burned and getting punished over there. لَا يَذُوقُونَ فِيهَا بَرْدًا وَلَا شَرَابًا. They will not taste in the hellfire coolness, neither any drink, إِلَّا حَمِيمًا وَغَسَّاقًا, except the boiling water and paralyzing cold. لَا يَذُوقُونَ. ذَاقَ يَذُوقُ means to taste something. Bard is cold. Sharab means anything to drink. They will not be tasting any coolness, wala sharaba, nor any drink in the hellfire. And the next ayah gives us some exemptions. إِلَّا حَمِيمًا وَغَسَّاقًا, except the boiling water. Hamim means boiling water. Remember, the word hamim in Arabic language has different meanings. And same thing, the word ghassaq has different meanings. Two words that are used, that they will have hamim in the hellfire and they will have ghassaq. Hamim in this ayah, without any doubt, means boiling water, because hamim has two meanings. One is a close friend, and the second is boiling water. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they will have nothing to drink over there except hamim, which means boiling water. Ghassaq has two different meanings, and in this ayah, both the meanings can apply. And accordingly, Sahaba, Tabi'een and Mufassirin, all of them have applied both the meanings at this ayah, and they said either meaning can apply. And both meanings are almost opposite of each other. One meaning of ghassaq is what I have just translated, is extreme cold, paralyzing cold, a cold that a human being that can never take. The second meaning of ghassaq is the boiling pus and the boiling blood. So it can mean both at this ayah, that they will not have anything to drink except boiling water and pus and blood, or it can mean the other thing also, that they will have nothing to drink in the hellfire except boiling water, and they will have paralyzing cold, which means the opposite of the first ayah. So it can mean both really in this ayah, and whichever meaning we take is correct according to this ayah. جَزَاءً وِفَاقًا. This will be an exact recompense, which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says all of this punishment that I'm mentioning is not that I'm adding the punishment for these people for things they have never done. It will be exactly for what they have done, nothing added to it. It's what we perform with our own hands and the deeds that we are committing in our lives. Nothing added to that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not oppress people. He does not do wrong to people. Here in this life, in Quran and the Ahadith, He has very clearly told us that if you do this, the punishment will be this. Everything is mentioned over there. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not tell us that if you miss the salah, we don't know whether we will be punished or not. The rule is there. There is punishment. The rahmah, of course, the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have mercy on someone, who can forgive all of his sins. But the rule is there. God forbid, a person commits adultery. This is the rule, that there will be this punishment for this person. He will be thrown in the hellfire, and in hellfire, he will be facing all of these things. A person who is a disbeliever, does not believe in Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the ayahs and the hadiths are very clear that that person deserves the punishment on the Day of Judgment, and the punishment is this. So everything is very clearly stated over there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be adding any punishment over what He have already told us. He have already told us that this is the punishment for these sins. Now it's up to the human being to choose whatever we would like to get for ourselves. He told us the Jannah also, the other side of it. As the next ayahs are coming, inshallah, that will tell us what is there for the God-fearing people and for the obedient servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا لَا يَرْجُونَ حِسَابًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the reason they deserve all of this punishment because إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا لَا يَرْجُونَ حِسَابًا. They never thought there will be any judgment. They never thought there will be any judgment. They never thought that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge them for their deeds. They thought this is the end of our life. We keep on working. And subhanallah, when we look around us, every morning we see people out in the traffic. Everyone is rushing to work. They leave their home in the morning. They don't know what is Allah. They don't know what's religion. They don't know what's God. They don't know what's the purpose of our creation. They don't know the importance of a human being, the greatness of human being. The whole purpose of the life is leave in the morning for work, make some money, come back in the evening tired, and sleep, have rest, so that we will be ready to work some more next day. That's the end of the life. Make some money, work, make the living, find food, find some pieces of bread, and get some burgers for ourselves, and at the end of the day go to rest and have a nice sleep, and next morning go back again and look for some more pizza now. That's the end of the life. This is the whole purpose of the life. The whole purpose is just, the whole life is just going around these things. Looking for some pieces of bread and looking for some piece of, some rest for our bodies, physical bodies. That's the whole purpose of a life for human being, whereas this is really how the animals are supposed to, they spend their lives. Get up in the morning, going out looking for food, at the night time in the evening go back and get into their places of rest and have some rest. Next morning wake up and again go and look for some food. This is the life of animals, not human beings. The life of human being, the purpose of the creation of human being is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have created the jinns and human beings only to worship me alone. مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُم مِّن رِزْقٍ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن يُطْعِمُونَ. I'm not looking for them to feed me. وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن يُطْعِمُونَ. I don't want them to give me anything to eat or any food. إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ. He says, I'm the provider. And then he tells us that once you will become my servant, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Whatever you see around you in the world, I have created it for you. So everything in this universe is for us. And we are for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything around us will serve us. And then we will not become the servants of these materials. We will not become the servants of this plastic and metal and gold and silver and dollars and pennies. These things will become our servants. Everything in this world is supposed to be the servant of a human being. And human being is supposed to be the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But as soon as the human being turns away from serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the very same human being the servant of all of these different objects in this life. See how everything changes then. The extreme of it, what we read in Quran al-Kareem and in the ahadith and the history, and what we see with the Hindus, those people who worship idols made out of stones. If we are to think about it for a moment, explain it to your children that there are people who get a piece of rock and then instead make shapes of it, and after it looks like it gets a shape and a form of a human being, then they start worshipping it and call it a god. Try to explain this idea to a child. Will never be able to understand it. That didn't he make it himself? How about if it breaks? That's fine. If it breaks, he's going to throw it in the garbage and go and find another one and then bring another one, put it over there, replace it with another god. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He takes the brain and hidayah of someone, there is nothing in the world can make that person understand the truth. And this hidayah is taken away when the person turns away from serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for other objects in this world. The more we turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us serve different things in this life. The extreme of it is those idol worshipping, fire worshipping, people who worship other objects like sun, moon, stars, whatever else they might worship. This is the extreme of it. But at least a step towards that is what we see even sometimes ourselves getting stuck in it, which is serving the materials and becoming the servants of dollars and pennies, becoming the servants of plastic and metals. And day and night we are serving our homes. What is home? Dust? Wood? Plasters? Paint? What is all of this? Finally, a human being, once the human being turns away from serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, becomes the servant of these things. And the more the person turns away, the more these things will start getting this person to serve him. And we as human beings, we instead of these things being our servants, we start serving them. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Whatever in this is in this universe is supposed to serve you, and everything is your servant and at your service if you serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and if you obey and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see this in the life history of Anbiya alayhimu salatu wassalam, Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, and all the great people of the ummah who served Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine Umar radiyallahu anhu is standing in Medina Munawwara, giving the khutbah in the masjid of Medina Munawwara, and there is a Muslim army that's fighting in Syria. The Muslim army is fighting in Syria. Umar radiyallahu anhu, while he's giving the khutbah of Jum'ah, he's able to watch the whole scene and everything that's going on in Syria. And the enemies were about to attack the Muslim army from behind a mountain. And Umar radiyallahu anhu, during his khutbah, announces from right there from his minbar in Medina Munawwara. He has no mic. Not even a mic that we have and normally we use to transfer our voice. He doesn't even have a mic. And just from there, standing in the minbar of Medina Munawwara, he announces from there, Al-Jabal ya Sariya. Sariya was the name of the commander-in-chief of the Muslim army. He calls upon him and Sariya, look at the mountain and go towards the mountain. Every Sahabi surprised that sitting over there and listening to the khutbah, what happened to Umar today? Something is wrong with Umar today. We can't see any Sariya. Sariya is in Syria. When that army came back, they asked them what happened. They said the enemies were about to attack us from behind the mountain. And Umar radiyallahu, when we heard Umar radiyallahu telling us, go back towards the mountain. When we went back towards the mountain, we were able to protect ourselves and we took over that army. Everything will serve the human beings if the human being will serve Allah. During the battle of Badr, one of the Sahaba says, I had a stick. One of the kuffar came with a sword and we were just in front of each other. There was no way for me to run away from him or to do anything that will save me from his sword now. I had a stick in my hand. I said to myself, before I get killed, let me at least hit him with my stick and do whatever I can at least. This is in my control. I can hit him with my stick and then he can kill me. Whatever he has to do, he will do it anyway. He said, I hit him with the stick. As soon as I hit him with the stick, I was surprised to see that his head is getting separated from his body. I looked and I did not have the stick anymore in my hand. That was a sword now. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Whatever is in this universe, He has created it for you. Everything in this world, in this universe, is supposed to serve the human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making this point very clear to us, that we are the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything else is our servant. We are not the servant of these other things, of these other objects. This is why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in the hadith, Ta'isa abdul dinar wa abdul dirham. Cursed is the servant of dinar and dirham, which means dollars and pennies, and the servant of sheets and clothing. Up to now, we might have heard the name Abdullah and Abdul Rahman. But Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said there are people whose name might be Abdullah and Abdul Rahman or any other name, but really that person is Abdul Dinari wa Abdul Dirham. He is Abdul Dinar and he is Abdul Dirham. He is the servant of dinar, dollars and pennies. What's the sign of those people? So that at least we can purify our hearts and get this type of thinking out of our mind. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the sign of those people, in u'tiya minha radiya wa illam yu'ta lam yarda. He serves the dollar and pennies, and the sign that he will be pleased only if you give him a dollar and a penny, and if he does not get the money, then he's never pleased. That person is never pleased if you don't give him anything. He will be pleased only if you pay him something. You keep on giving him something, then he's pleased. Always looking forward to make something from people. Never looking forward to serve people. In a'tiya minha radiya wa illam yu'ta lam yarda. So there are people who are Abdul Dinar and Abdul Dirham. And finally, as the person turns away from worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said, the final stage is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes him an open servant of stones and mud. And he makes idols and instead worshipping those idols. He put on a fire and he starts worshipping that fire. He sees the sun and starts worshipping the sun. He sees the stars at night time, he starts worshipping the stars. He is the servant of every object other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he turned away from serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا لَا يَرْجُونَ حِسَابًا. Indeed, they never thought there will be a judgment. They rejected the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا كِذَّابًا. And they continuously rejected our ayahs. كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا كِذَّابًا. Continuously they were rejecting our ayahs. وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْصَيْنَاهُ كِتَابًا. And everything we have recorded in a book, so that they will be judged accordingly as they will come on the day of judgment. Nothing will be missing from that book. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kahf, وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابِ. That book will be presented to people. فَتَرَى الْمُجْرِمِينَ مُشْفِقِينَ مِمَّا فِيهِ. You will see the wrongdoers afraid of what's in the book. And they will say, وَيَقُولُونَ, they will say, يَا وَيْلَتَنَا مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً إِلَّا أَحْصَاهَا. Today will be destroyed. There will be no wait for us to have to save ourselves, because مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ. What type of book is this? لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً إِلَّا أَحْصَاهَا. Every minor and major thing, it's over there. Whatever we did in our life, a minor look towards a haram, the book says that he did this. A simple word that I said, one word that I said to hurt someone's feeling, or cursing someone, that this book has those words also. لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة. Every minor and major thing is stated in this book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَجَدُوا مَا عَمِلُوا حَاضِرًا. Whatever they did, they found it, they will find it in front of them. وَلَا يَظْلِمُ رَبُّكَ أَحَدًا. Allah will not be doing wrong to any person. So this is the book. وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْصَيْنَاهُ كِتَابًا. We have recorded everything in a book. فَذُوقُوا فَلَن نَزِيدَكُمْ إِلَّا عَذَابًا. Now keep on testing my punishment. Keep on testing the punishment. فَلَن نَزِيدَكُمْ إِلَّا عَذَابًا. I will just keep on increasing your punishment. I will be increasing your punishment. Why? Why increasing the punishment? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I do not do wrong to people. I do not oppress people. I do not punish people for things they have never done. Why the punishment is increasing? This ayah that we have just recited, that tells us the reason. وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا كِذَّابًا is telling us the reason that they continuously rejected. As they received a new ayah, they will reject that ayah also. They will see a new sign of the truthfulness of Iman. They will reject that sign also. They will see a new miracle of Islam. They will reject that miracle also. So as their kufr was increasing, now the punishment will be increasing according to their kufr. And this is exactly the status of the kuffar. In the beginning, when they reject the ayahs of Allah, they have some feeling that this might be true. As they find out more about it, they realize that there is truth in it. But now they are rejecting even more insistingly. And as they go further, they realize even more that there is truth in there, and I cannot find this truth anywhere else. But now they are even strongly rejecting it, because now they know that I have to oppose it from inside. Something is telling him that this is true, you have to follow it, and he has to fight those inner feelings. And to fight those feelings, he has to come openly and start rejecting it and keep on disputing it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, as this person was increasing his rejection to the ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as his kufr was increasing, same thing now, the punishment will be continuously increasing for this person. Up to this point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us about the disbelievers and those who reject the ayahs of Al-Quran Al-Kareem and those who disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the next ayahs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the believers and the virtuous people. Inna lil muttaqina mafaza. Indeed, for muttaqeen, the God-fearing people, there will be success. Mafaz. Faza yafuzu is to have success. Lil muttaqina mafaza. For God-fearing people, there will be success. Hada'iqa wa anaba. Hada'iq is a plural of hadiqa, which means gardens. They will have a lot of gardens, wa anaba, and grapeyards, a lot of grapes. Wa kawa'iba atraba, and young girls who will be of equal age. Kawa'ib means young girls. But since we are talking about the ayah of Quran al-Kareem and the language of the Quran, I will also explain what's the reason for calling the young girls Kawa'ib. According to the Arabic language, Ka'ab means anything that's higher than the rest of the things. For example, when we recite the ayah of wudu, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us to perform wudu in Quran al-Kareem, He says, فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. Ka'b. What is Ka'bayn? Ankles. Wash your feet up to the ankles. Why this ankle is called Ka'b in Arabic language? Because it's higher than the rest of the part over there. So you can see it clearly. It's higher. This is why it's called Ka'b. Young girls are called Kawa'ib because as the girl gets to the edge of puberty, the chest gets higher. This is why, according to the language, they are called Kawa'ib, and it refers to young girls. So Kawa'ib, in translation we call it young girls, but this is the background of it, why it's called young Kawa'ib, why the young girls are called Kawa'ib. And atrab means of the same age, equal age. As Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in the hadith, when the people will go to Jannah, they will be approximately 30 to 35 years old. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us now that Hur in Jannah and the Muslim women in Jannah, they will be of the same age, atrab. They will be of that same age, about 30 to 35 years old. وَكَأْسًا دِهَاقًا, and full cups. Over there, whatever a person wants to drink, nothing will be, he will never think that I will be missing something from it. The cup is always full. That person is drinking and the cup remains full. Because if the cup will get empty, then the person will be feeling that it's getting less and I'm missing it. But the cup is always full. And one of the beautiful things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran al-Kareem about these cups and drinking in Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَتَنَازَعُونَ فِيهَا كَأْسًا لَا لَغْوٌ فِيهَا وَلَا تَأْثِيمٌ. In the Jannah, someone will be drinking something, and another person, a friend of his, will go to him and will pull the cup away from him and will drink his drink. But the cup remains full, so it's not going to be hurt. But this is a type of joke they will be making with each other, and this is how the fun they will be having in the Jannah, that one person is drinking and the other person will pull it up from him and will start drinking it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا لغوا فيها ولا تأثيم, no hard feelings. And they will be not using any bad words for each other. No cursing, no bad words, and no hard feelings. So it will be a very clean jokes over there and clean good time over there. لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا. They will not hear evil talk, neither lie over there. Laghu means evil talk. Any type of words that are not good to use. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there will not be even any lie in the Jannah, they will not hear any lie, which means any bad word, any lying, anything that is not suitable for tongue to say will not exist in Jannah. It will be only clean and pure words. جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا. This is a reward from your Lord. Jaza means a reward. Min Rabbik, from your Lord. So this will be a reward from your Lord. Ata'an hisaba, a calculated gift. Ata means gift. Hisaba means calculated. Which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have already calculated what He needs to give and what He wants to give for His virtuous servants. So He has already assigned things for us over there. Ata'an hisaba. These are calculated gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And who is Allah? Rabbis samawati wal ard. The Lord of the heaven and the earth. Wama baynahuma ar-Rahman. And the Lord of whatever is in between them. The Lord of the heaven and the earth and whatever is in between them. Ar-Rahman. The most beneficent. La yamlikuna minhu khitaba. They will not have power to speak to him. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning this part over here? La yamlikuna minhu khitaba. They will not have the power to speak to him. According to Mufassirin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mentioned this point over there to tell us that here He told us about the people who will be receiving the punishment. Now He's talking about the people who will be getting all the good time in the Jannah. So none of those people who is receiving the punishment will have the right to question Allah. Ya Allah, why are you giving these people so much? There are some people that they never did so much worship to you. There was only a little difference between me and him. But Ya Allah, why are you giving him so much? Why he's having all this good time in the Jannah? La yamlikuna minhu khitaba. They will have no power to talk to him and to object to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الرُّوحُ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us how the day of judgment will be. يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الرُّوحُ. The day when a ruh means Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam. وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ, and the rest of the angels. They will be standing in rows. يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الرُّوحُ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ صَفًّا. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us the situation of all the human beings on that day, that how come people won't be able to talk? What would stop them from talking? They will see the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam with the rest of the angels is standing in rows, and they have no power to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They cannot dare to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam, who always talks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is always there and receiving the messages from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angel who got the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and revealed all the books to all different prophets of Allah, even that great angel will not have power to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and quietly, silently will be standing with the rest of the angels in a line. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then how come the human being will be able to talk? يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الرُّوحُ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ صَفًّا. The day when Jibreel alayhi salam and the rest of the angels will be standing in rows. لَا يَتَكَلَّمُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَذِنَ لَهُ الرَّحْمَنُ وَقَالَ صَوَابًا. No one will speak except those who will have the permission from Ar-Rahman, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَقَالَ صَوَابًا, and will say the truth. These will be the two conditions. Those people will be allowed to speak who will get a permission, prior permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, can I please say something? If Allah will allow them, then they will be allowed to speak. And as we know from the ahadith, those people who will be receiving this permission, of course, Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam, they will get the permission to intercede on behalf of their ummahs. Shuhada of the ummah will be having this permission to intercede on behalf of 70 people from the ummah. Scholars, ulama of the ummah, which means virtuous people, those who are practicing people, practicing the deen, they will have the permission to intercede on behalf of those people who have learned deen from them and practiced deen by learning it from them. Huffaz will be able to intercede on behalf of 10 people of their family members. So these are different type of people who will be allowed to intercede on that day, and they will be allowed to talk, but وَقَالَ صَوَابًا, the condition will be just say the truth and say only what you are allowed to say. Don't say anything other than that. So very restricted talk over there. ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمُ الْحَقِّ, that is a true day. That day and the coming of that day is very true. فَمَنْ شَاءَ اتَّخَذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ مَآبًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, since it is a fact that that day is coming, then why don't you make a place for you over there? As we recited in the previous ayahs, مَآبًا لِلطَّاغِينَ مَآبًا. Hellfire is the final destination for the transgressors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here says, فَمَنْ شَاءَ اتَّخَذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ مَآبًا. Whoever wants should make his own destination over there. Prepare a place for him over there, a final destination for himself over there, so that at least when he will go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will have a place to live and he will have a place to go to. As one of the kings asked a scholar, he said, how come we are afraid of our death? And we are not afraid to live in this life. He said, because you know that you have built nice houses, castles in this life, in this world. This is why you like to stay over here. And you know for yourself that you have not built any castle for yourself over there and no home for yourself over there. This is why you're afraid to go over there. If you will build a castle for yourself over there also, and build it by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you won't be afraid to go back over there. Then you will know that you have a home over there. This is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. فَمَنْ شَاءَ اتَّخَذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ مَآبًا. So whoever wants should make a destination, a place for him over there with his Lord. إِنَّا أَنذَرْنَاكُمْ عَذَابًا قَرِيبًا. Indeed, we have warned you, عَذَابًا قَرِيبًا, of a punishment that's coming very soon. Adhab and qareeb, a punishment that's coming very soon. يَوْمَ يَنْظُرُ الْمَرْءُ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاهُ. The day when every human being will see what his hands have sent forth, which means every person will be able to see the deeds that he have sent and the deeds that he have committed. And these are the only things that we will find over there. Nothing other than that we will find on that day. It's only our deeds. Where are we going back to? We are going back to our deeds, really. Going back to see what we have sent over there, good or bad. We will find each and every deed that we perform in our life, we will see it over there. إِنَّا أَنذَرْنَاكُمْ عَذَابًا قَرِيبًا. Indeed, we have warned you of a punishment that's coming very soon. يَوْمَ يَنْظُرُ الْمَرْءُ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاهُ. The day when every person will be able to see what his hands have sent forth. وَيَقُولُ الْكَافِرُ يَا لَيْتَنِي كُنْتُ تُرَابًا. And the disbeliever will say, Ya laytani, I wish I would have been a dust. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says in the hadith, on the day of judgment, as all the creatures will come back to life, human beings, jinns, animals, everything will come back to life. And then the first judgment will be for the animals. Which means if any animal have done wrong to another animal, they will be taking revenges from each other. And after these animals will take revenge from each other, they will become dust. As the kuffar will see these animals becoming dust, they will be hoping, we wish if we would have been like these animals. Ya laytani kuntu turaba. I wish I would become a dust also. Which simply means I wish I would have been an animal and I will become a dust, so I won't have to go through all of this now that I will be going through it now. At the translation of this ayah, I have found that up to now, that 3-4 different translations that I have seen, I don't see the translation of Ya laytani kuntu turaba done properly. And I feel that they have mixed up this word Ya laytani with Ya waylati. Ya waylata means, oh, it's destruction for me now. I will be destroyed. Wail. Wailul li kulli humazatin lumaza. Wailul lil mutaffifin. But layta means I wish. And wail means I'm destroyed. Destruction. And many of them have translated this Ya laytani, destruction for me, or some similar word. And then kuntu turaba, they have put it as separate word, which is a mistake really. Ya laytani kuntu turaba is one word that I wish if I would have been a dust. You have Yusuf Ali's translation, I think. What does that say?
It says, and the unbeliever will say, woe unto me, would that I were merely dust.
Same thing, woe unto me. Yahweh, I think they are confusing these two words of layta and wayla. And when you put them in this form, they come very similar. And this is why, this might be a reason that one confused it and the rest of them copied or something. But Ya laytani kuntu turaba, I wish I would have been a dust. And as I said, the disbelievers will be wishing for themselves to be dust only after they will see the animals becoming dust and animals going back to dust. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or in the surah, in these ayahs of Quran al-Kareem, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have very clearly reminded us of akhirah and told us the fact of this life. أَنذَرْنَاكُمْ عَذَابًا قَرِيبًا. How long are you going to live? It's a question that we really need to ask ourselves every day. We need to question ourselves every time that how much I'm going to live, for how long I'm going to live, and all the effort that I'm putting for this life. What is it that I will be getting out of it? How much benefit I will be getting from this? If we really look into the reality of it, most of the people whose goal is to become very wealthy and get into one of those fields that will really make the person earn good, they have to spend at least up to the age of 30. They will be studying and then beginning their work and having some little work, just hoping that now in the future I will have a better work now, and then I will really be able to make money through this field. After 30, how many years do we guesstimate that we will really have for a good time? 30 to 35 years. But he has to work another 15 to 20 years now to have his own home and have everything paid off, his interest and all the loans and everything. Now he can say that I own it and not the bank. At least 15 to 20 more years. Now he's left with only 15 more years. For these 15 years, he have put all of that past 40, 45 years for these 10 to 15 years to have some comfort during these 10, 15 years. And then he knows also that he will be retired, and back pain and neck pain and pain in the knees and not able to move anymore. And after, if the person does not have, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called them, waladun salih, virtuous children, then in another 10 to 15 years he will be looking to get in one of the old age homes. That's the end of it. all the effort, every work that we are putting, and all the time that we are spending for that. As one of the brothers, who's a doctor also, and his son becoming a doctor, he told me, I asked him what your son is doing. So he said to me, he's becoming a doctor. Then I didn't ask him anything. He himself said to me, he says, for what? For 2 burgers, and he will be eating only 1 out of 2. He will get the chance to eat only 1. He might not even eat both of them. So I said, for 2 burgers a day, he's doing all of this. And he says, you don't know how hard he has to work just to apply for it and to get it, and to get into these studies. And this is really a fact, that all of our effort is going for this. Of course, I don't mean we should not put any effort in this direction. It's good. If someone wants to go in that direction, put your effort there. But think how much effort we need to put over there, and how much effort we really should put for our deen and for the real person, for the real life, about which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ شَاءَ اتَّخَذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ مَآبًا. Build a place for yourself over there with your Lord. Have a place ready for you over there. Because the retirement plan that we all hoping that, and most of the people who work, hoping that they will use that money, they keep on putting 10,000, 15,000 each year or more sometime. And some people I know, they are even putting $30,000 a year in that retirement plan. Hoping that once I will get 70 years old, with all the pains of my life, then I will be able to use that money. And everyone is looking forward that when this old man is going to go under the ground, so at least we can get the money out and use it. It's just sitting over there for nothing. I had a contractor. He was talking to me about life insurance. And he just happened to be telling me, I had an appointment with one of the brokers for my life insurance and this and that. So I said to him, the day you will die, your wife and your children will be celebrating. He said, why? I said, at least, they will have a feeling $500,000 waiting for us over there. As soon as they will hear he's dead, okay, there is little pain that he died, but at the same time, okay, the $500,000 is coming too. So, some comfort. Only recently I found out, this talk was about 2 months back. Recently I found out he said to me, no more life insurance. I canceled it. And really this is what it is. I have heard it from Muslim children. Believe me, Muslim children. I heard it saying that, that's fine. I don't mind. My father for how long is going to live? And then I will get everything. Something is there in the back of people's mind. And when we put our children just solely in that direction, looking for that, then of course they are looking to get it from every source. And our death is one of those sources. Because we are a big holdup. They know that he worked hard for the 30 years of his life, and he had at least an asset of $2-3 million. So we are a big holdup between him and those $3 million that he sees in front of him. And the only thing that's holding him back from getting it is our life. As soon as we are out, he's ready to get it and use it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us, فَمَنْ شَاءَ اتَّخَذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ مَآبًا. If you want, you really then make a place for you in the akhirah. Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullahi alayhi, when he was dying, someone said to him that you are Khalifatul Mu'mineen. You rule the whole Muslim world. And in his day, during his time, during his Khilafah, the situation was such that people were looking for someone to accept zakah, and there is no one to accept the zakah. He was so just in ruling, and he would not keep a single penny in Baytul Mal. Will collect all the zakat and sadaqat and give it out to the poor people. No more poor people to accept the zakat and sadaqat. They are looking for people, begging people, you are poor, take it. And it says, I have enough, I don't need anymore. When he died, someone said to him that you are dying now and your own children have no asset and have no wealth. his situation was this, that his children, since he became Khalifa, his children never had a chance to eat any fruit. He never had a money to buy any fruit for his children. One day, he got some apples from sadaqah as a sadaqah. He was distributing those apples from the sadaqah, and one of his sons came, young children came, and he picked up one of the apples and took a bite from it. Umar bin Abdul Aziz pulled that apple away from him and gave it to another child that was playing with him. And he said to his son, "This is not for you. You can't eat this apple." The child started crying, went home crying, and he said to his, of course the mother asked him what happened, and explained the whole story to his mother. Now when Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullahi alayhi went home, both of them are crying. His wife says, "Since you became a Khalifa, and since you are Amir al-Mu'mineen, it's really hardship for all of us now. We are going through this hardship just because you are Khalifa. What's wrong if your child will take an apple from that sadaqah and will eat it? You are giving it to all the other children on the street, and you don't just give it to just your own son? Is that justice?" He says to her that, "Believe me, when I pulled the apple from his hand, I felt like I'm pulling my own heart out of my chest. But I said to myself, what if on the day of judgment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask me, 'Umar, there were many other poor children on the street also. Why did you give your son a preference over other children?' What reply would I have for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time?" He said, "That was the reason I took it away from my son." On the day of Eid, everyone likes to wear nice clothing. And all the people are going to Salatul Eid with clean clothes. His children are crying that, "Dad, we are not going for Eid today. What happened? We have same old clothes. We don't have some new clothes for even Eid." So Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullahi alayhi, as he saw all of his children, the situation at his home, and children are crying and they're saying, "We don't want to go for Salatul Eid." So he went to Baytul Mal. He said to the person in charge of Baytul Mal that, "Give me my salary for 1 month ahead of time." That person said, "Sure, I will give it to you. But Umar, please write me a piece of paper saying that you took this much for next month, you took your salary of the next month, and with that I also need a note saying that you guarantee me you will live and work for 1 more month so that at least this payment will go towards that work." Umar bin Abdul Aziz realized that this is true. I cannot guarantee that I will be working for the next 30 days and I'm getting paid for the next 30 days. And he said to that person, "Okay, don't give it to me." Went back home and he said to his children, "I'm sorry. I cannot afford to get you new clothing. All I can say is just go to Salatul Eid with the same clothes. And Eid is worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and go and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with whatever you have." So at the time of his death, people said to him, "Why don't you leave something and write a will that you worked for so many years? Your salary was very minimum. So write a will, and we are all willing to fulfill that your children will get something from Baytul Mal." He said, "I know that I have a right to do so. And if I want, I can do it. And you people will do it too for me. But," he said, "if my children will be virtuous children, obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of their needs. And they will never be lost. And if my children are not obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will use this wealth in disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question me, 'Umar, why did you help your children disobey me by leaving that wealth for them?' So he said, if they are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will take care. I'm not their provider. I'm not a Razzaq. As I'm leaving this world and I'm going away from this world, after that is not my responsibility. It's the responsibility who created them and who sent them to this world." This reminds me this last weekend I was in a seminar where there was special discussion about Hajj, groups of people who were going for Hajj. And people were asking different questions. One of those people asked a question. He said, there were all different possibilities. People are a little afraid also before going for Hajj. And many people, they go to Hajj when they have lost all of their abilities and their health. And now they know that he cannot do anything more in his life, nothing else in his life, so let's go for Hajj. So a question came that how about if a person would die over there? What is the arrangement? There was a travel agent sitting beside me. I said to him that this question better be answered by you than me. And I knew that person's way of replying to questions. So he took the mic and he says to that person, he says, don't worry when you go over there. Those people have better arrangement for dead people than living people. So he said, don't worry about after that at all. You will be in real good hands. But as long as you're alive, you have to worry about those situations. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, يَوْمَ يَنْظُرُ الْمَرْءُ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاهُ. That day we all will see whatever we have sent for our akhirah and whatever deeds we have performed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is advising us, فَمَنْ شَاءَ اتَّخَذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ مَآبًا. Make a place for you over there in the akhirah. So at least once we go back over there, we have a safe place over there. And we have prepared a place for ourselves over there in akhirah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have His rahmah on us inshallah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.